Time doesn't erase murder. It just hides it better. They said the case was closed. They said no one was watching. But someone always is. This is Santana True Crime.
Welcome to Santana True Crime. Tonight, I've got with me Kelli Brink.
Hello.
Because we're going to be talking about Bigfoot. And not the Bigfoot that we talked about on our other show, The Disclosure Lounge. We're going to be talking about the only time that Bigfoot has been a suspect in a kidnapping case. And I thought that was really interesting. And it ties into what we were doing on The Disclosure Lounge, which is unraveling the mystery of Bigfoot, to include having Miss Kelli Brink telling her courageous story of surviving a Bigfoot encounter. Kelli, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back, Cameron. It's good to be here.
So we are going to be talking about Theresa Bier, who was 16 years old at the time she went missing. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. I believe this is the only time that Bigfoot has been brought up in a missing person case. Have you ever heard of anything like that before?
Nothing like that. I've heard of, people being possessed as an excuse to murder someone, but I've never heard of a missing person at the hands of Bigfoot. And the craziest thing about this case is that the whole community believed him.
Yeah, and let's take it back a little bit. I mean, this is 1987 when this happened, and it's in Fresno County, California.
Yes.
So this is a remote area where she's at, and there's a lore surrounding this community with Bigfoot. Right?
Yeah, there is. I mean, it's a mountainous area. There are hundreds of thousands of acres of tough terrain, trees, caves, mountains, all of these things. And I'm sure, and it sounds like there's, a lot of strange activity in the area that people attribute to Bigfoot. I know you're not a believer, but I would totally be like, yeah, there are cryptids here. There's Bigfoot here. But yeah, everybody believed it. There was a whole community full of people who studied Bigfoot. There were like groups that got together and talked about Bigfoot, went out to try to hunt Bigfoot. It was a big deal in this area.
Yeah, and so again, we talked about that on the Disclosure Lounge, Bigfoot and the history and whatnot. But if we go back to Theresa and what we know about her and what we know really happened, we know that Theresa had a rough upbringing. She was passed around foster homes, right? At some point, she had gotten to her grandmother, and her grandmother could not take care of her. Yeah. And I feel like this is someone who truly slipped through the cracks, right?
She certainly did. And going back even further, so she was born to parents who had a very unstable life. And at just 3 years old, her own mother, who's supposed to love and protect her, broke her leg, requiring a hospital stay, surgery. And that's initially when CPS got involved in their lives and figured out, hey, something's not right in this home. So she broke her leg, got that figured out, and then entered the foster care system. And you know how things go quite often once you're in the system. It doesn't always go very well. And like you said, she was bounced around to a lot of different homes. She had a little bit of stability for a short time. So when her mom and dad got a divorce, she, through a series of unforeseen circumstances, ended up living with her uncle. Her uncle was the only person who was willing to take her at that time. John Richmond, they called him Blind Johnny, because he was legally blind. At some point earlier in his life, he had shot his eye out. And John did not live the most stable life. He was very, very involved in drugs and didn't provide a lot of stability for this little girl, had her around a lot of shady characters.
You know what's interesting about that is that the courts or the system is trying to find Teresa some stability in her life. And I
Mm.
realize that a lot of times they try to find someone that's related to her
Yes,
for
they do.
obvious
Yeah.
reasons, right?
Yeah.
Try to stick them with the family.
Yes.
So you stick her with the guy that literally shot himself.
Right. He was playing Russian
Like,
roulette.
that's the best that you can do
Mhm.
is send her to the guy that was playing Russian roulette, lost, not that you can win that game if you keep on playing,
Right.
and yeah, and so they send him to the blind guy
Yes.
that
They
obviously has issues.
Yep, they sent her with her uncle, and, she was about 16, and she was started hanging out with some people, maybe, that she shouldn't have been hanging out with because of the people her uncle was around. Yeah.
And I think that's a very nice way to put it, right? I mean,
Right. Yeah.
she's from what is kind of out there, and I believe it, is that he was involved in selling drugs, and
Yeah.
my understanding is that he really wanted her because he was getting a government check out of it.
Yes, I believe that's accurate. Yep. He was not a great guy, and, he had some friends who we're gonna talk about soon, who weren't good influences on her probably either. You know, they were in their, what, 40s. She's 16. Probably not the
Yeah.
right
So
mix.
you're referring to Russell Skip Welch, right?
I am. He was a friend of blind Johnny, and he started showing Teresa some attention, I think. They were friends on friendly terms anyway. And I don't know if you want to get into it now, but he had something he wanted to show her, he said. And he was like, hey, let's skip school. I'm going to let you skip school. And that's what she did. So they went up into the mountains.
And she's skipping school because Skip is a Bigfoot enthusiast, right?
Yes.
And he
Yes.
had been known to take groups up into the mountains, and he had this spot that he would take them, and allegedly that's where you would go and see Bigfoot,
Yes. He
which, you know, I
was
thought of, and, you know, I should have brought this up in the disclosure lounge when we were
yeah.
talking about it, but I wonder of how sober slash I guess you can use sober for drug use, right?
Mhm.
But if was there any other anything else that helped people see Bigfoot? Like, are they going in there and taking mushrooms and then they're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, we
that's
went
a good point.
camping and we saw this, you know, this creature, he was running around."
I'm surprised you didn't ask if I had taken anything that night at the campsite when I had my Bigfoot experience, but I did not. I was
I was
totally
trying to be
sober.
nice.
I was totally sober. But yeah, okay, so these people were known meth users, known drug dealers.
Right.
What else were they doing? Yeah,
Well,
something
yeah.
hallucinogenic, maybe.
And allegedly, they were actually using Teresa and her friends to move the drugs
Yeah, they were, like, using them as drug mules, I think. That's true. Yep.
because, from what they're saying in there's a documentary out on this that they figured out that the cops wouldn't stop the teenagers. The
Right.
cops knew that they would have been known suspects,
Mhm, mhm.
and I get that, you know, if you've got a guy that's known to deal meth, you're going to keep more attention on him than the 16-year-old that's going to school.
That's totally accurate, yeah.
So they found
So
a way to work the system, is what I'm
yes.
saying. They've got Teresa bringing them a check, and they're doing all these, you know, other illegal activities that they shouldn't be doing.
Mhm,
And he's also got this, we'll say, excuse to go into the woods and
mhm.
search for Bigfoot.
Yeah, he called himself a Bigfoot student, and he was very kind of like well known in the community as a Bigfoot authority, I guess. Like people were like, "Yeah, he knows a lot about Bigfoot." He called himself a Bigfoot student. He said he knew everything about Bigfoot. He knew all about these underground caves that they lived in, and I mean that sounds like a drug induced hallucination a little bit.
All right, so what we know about Teresa that happened that day, we know that June 1st is when it's the last time that someone saw her alive.
Yes. Yep.
And we
That's
know that
when.
she went up in the mountains with Skip
Mhm.
and that they're supposed to be looking for Bigfoot and camping up there. She's not in school. We know that for a fact. And she's not seen at all after that point.
Nope.
And so what we're really stuck with is we've got this gap of time where no one has even reported her missing until later on. And then they don't get up with Skip, with the guy that was actually with her last until June 5th. So you're looking at a 5-day gap
Mhm.
that you're not even talking to the person that was with her last.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, so her foster parent did report her missing to the police, but, Skip never contacted police. And we'll get into his story, but if his story is true and she got abducted by a Bigfoot, why would you not run down that mountain as soon as you could and report that to somebody? He kinda, like, skipped out and
Right.
hid and dodged everybody for a while.
And we talked about this on the Disclosure Lounge, but up until this point, we've never heard of anyone being kidnapped, assaulted, anything like that by Bigfoot, right?
No, Bigfoot just gives warnings. He's like, "Get away from this area," or makes some noise, makes a little bit of noise, smells kinda bad, but
Yeah.
doesn't hurt anybody. He doesn't usually hurt anybody.
And so Skip makes up this story to the police that she sees Bigfoot and runs after him. And then Bigfoot snatches her up and takes her to wherever Bigfoot stays.
Yeah, he had a few different stories even before that. At first, he said a couple different things. One of them was she left with some friends, and then she left with some other campers. Like he had, I wanna say like four different stories, flip-flopping until he finally offered up the Bigfoot alibi or the Bigfoot story.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is a very remote area. This is not an area that you're gonna run into people.
No, it's not. It's very remote, treacherous, rugged trails, lots of trees. It's not the kind of place you'll wanna go missing for sure.
And so I was thinking about this today, and I wonder if he even took her camping at all.
I wondered that too, actually, because we're taking this drug dealer's word for it. He's a known shady, sketchy person depending on who you talk to. Some of his family members say, "Oh, he was a great dad. He was a great guy." Other people said, "Oh, no, he's known to take young girls up into those mountains." So we don't totally know, but how can we take his word for it? She was last seen in the morning. She was supposed to go to school. She did not. And then he says she was last seen around 7:20 when Bigfoot got her. So, like, where did they ever go that way? And then we're gonna talk probably about the scene, which looked a little staged, which would support the idea that, maybe she never took him. But they did have some Polaroid pictures at the scene that did kind of show that maybe they actually were there, but it looked like not the scene that he took them to, like,
Right.
he staged that scene, but the pictures were taken somewhere else, so, yeah.
And that's the problem, right? Like, he had
Mhm.
access to her clothing, he had access to I'm sure that they've been there before. This wasn't the
Mhm.
first time that she's gone looking for Bigfoot, and
Right, right.
so, a Polaroid picture does not have a timestamp on it.
That's very true. Yes. Yep. Mhm.
But even if, that was true and those were her clothes and they did take those pictures on June 1st, that still doesn't mean that he's not responsible. I mean, I just feel like this is one of those cases that is not a real whodunit. It's he's
Absolutely not.
right. Like,
There were
he's
Yeah,
responsible, it's just where's her body?
right. There were 2 people there, a 16-year-old girl and a 40-something-year-old man, and do the math here.
So I
He's
just wanna put you on the record here that
Yeah.
you're saying that Bigfoot did not kidnap her.
Well, now you've got me thinking. I mean, I anything's possible, but is it probable? No.
Finally got you to agree that,
Oh, that there's no such thing as Bigfoot.
just gonna
Oh,
add that in there, but
I don't think that if there's if there is a Bigfoot, I don't think he's capable of doing that kind of harm to people or would even want to. I think if he's gonna hurt anyone, it would be Skip.
yeah, and like we're saying earlier that this is a community where Bigfoot is the lore or the legend, and I feel like that I wonder if how many people actually believe this.
I think a lot of people believed this. I mean, from everything I've read, okay, this community, it honestly reminds me of, like, somewhere in, like, the Roswell area or some way off grid area where people were a little kooky because everybody believed stuff like I mean, they just kinda, like they were like, "Well, there is a lot of activity here. It could have happened." But then it's like, okay, if they believed that Bigfoot did this, was Skip a good guy? They took his word for it. Maybe he wasn't as bad as I'm thinking he was. I don't know.
Yeah, and so there's a documentary on this case called Bigfoot Took Her. It's
Mhm.
out on Hulu, and I watched it, and I feel like a lot of this was entertainment, how
Mhm.
they maybe it's not entertainment, maybe people actually believe that Bigfoot took her, but regardless, at some point, the police are not convinced, right? Like, they believe that Skip did it, they just don't have a body, and they don't have a strong case at all.
That's right. Yes.
But like most things, they wanted to try to find a charge to be able to hit him with.
Yes. They charged him with child theft.
That's right, it actually
Yeah.
was. So they
Yeah.
charged him with child theft, which is essentially a kidnapping,
Right.
and this is a state charge in California, but they're bluffing him because they
Yes.
say that they won't charge him. They'll essentially give him immunity if they will tell them where Teresa's body is and
Mhm.
they can
Mhm.
recover her.
Yeah, and they
Isn't
wanted
that
him to
nuts?
sign a plea deal that said that they could, like I don't know. I didn't understand this exactly, but it was, like, some sort of plea where he they could, like if they find her body, then they could try him for murder, I think, something like that, right? And he wouldn't sign it, and so they dropped the charges.
So they dropped the charges after 3 days, but they
Mhm.
were, and that's all the charges. They
Okay.
didn't want to put the murder on the charge because what happens if they would have done that and it would have gone to trial, then double jeopardy would have applied.
Exactly. Yep, for
And so
sure.
you only get one shot at things. So I think that's why they were trying the lesser charge
Yes.
to see if he would bite on it, but he
Right.
doesn't.
That's right. Yep, yep.
And I'm guessing that from his point of view, he probably knew damn well that there's no way they're finding her. He stuck her in a remote part of those backwoods where it's highly likely that, due to predation and time, her body's going to disappear.
He played his hand. Yes, he sure did. He knew what happened, or he knew that Bigfoot really did it. I mean, maybe. I don't know. Probably not, but
Well, he ends up dying in his mid 50s due to heart problems, so we will never know. Uh,
ugh,
yeah. And that's the rough thing about this case. Now he's dead, and uh, John Richard or Richmond, the uncle, is also dead. So neither one of us can tell us where Teresa's body is. And so even though she may not have family, I do feel that someone else probably knows where her body is. Like, I don't think that a guy like Skip and just his lifestyle choices of more or less this like drug induced life, that he kept his mouth shut every single day of what really happened.
yeah, I don't think he did. In watching that documentary, it sounded like he had moments where he would break down over the years. And now these are just accounts from people saying he said this. Who knows if they're even telling the truth? But there were a few like witnesses who said, he just started crying and said, I just feel so bad for that girl, and things like that. So who knows?
You know what always crosses my mind with cases like this is that, was she the only one? Like, were
Yeah.
there other girls that he preyed upon and took to those to that area and did the same thing?
Well, again, in the documentary, Bigfoot took her. There is a relative of his that says they strongly believed he was a serial killer. And there's
Yeah.
another witness who said, well, he took another underage girl up there too. And she came back fine. But it's really difficult because on one side, you have people saying he was a great guy, good dad, blah, blah, blah. The other side, you've got people saying he's a straight up serial killer. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that a reasonable in between would be he's at least responsible for Teresa's death in some capacity,
Yeah. I
whether
mean,
that
what
was accidental or he took her up there with an intent to kill her. We won't know.
we'll never know. The scenario that comes to my mind is that he took her up there with bad intentions. Something unfolded, maybe an accident happened, and I don't know, and then she ended up dead, but we may never know. But speaking of serial killers, there is another theory too that it was a serial killer group that was active in that area at the time called the Speed Freaks, and they were like a motorcycle gang basically. They were known to kill a lot of women at that time. Some people say maybe it was them. But if it was them, how would Skip fit into that picture?
Right. And
Yeah,
you would think you would be more willing to report that
right.
if he was up there with her and was
Exactly.
encountered by 2 people
Right. Because it
that
would take
snatched her away.
yeah, it
You
would
wouldn't
take
be
him off
running
the
around
hook.
hiding for 5 days.
Exactly. And that's the most telling part of this is that he came down from that mountain and the first thing he did was basically go into hiding. He didn't contact the police or her uncle or the school or anybody. He basically hid from everyone, didn't tell anyone anything, and Teresa's uncle had to find out on his own that she didn't make it to school that day. So I think that implicates him. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And, while there's no real closure for this case, I think that this is to try to find some type of positive light. It just shows how important it is for groups that take care of foster kids and are providing those cares. And this is a good reason why family courts need to do a better job too when they're placing these kids, and not
Mhm.
just stick them with a parent. Don't stick them with the parent that shot himself
Yes.
and has
Or the random
nightmares
creepy
all over the
uncle.
place.
Yeah,
Right. With
for
a
sure.
crazy uncle.
Yeah, I know. I get the whole thing behind wanting to keep families together. I understand that, but there are oftentimes better placements, but the foster care system is just a dark, just terrible place to be, I think. I've thought about being a foster parent before, like, years ago. I was starting to go through the process when I was married. I mean, there are just so many kids who need a good home. It's so sad. Um, and you've got so many people, I mean, who who have just really bad intentions in becoming foster parents. They're doing it because they know, like, they just abuse child after child who comes into their home. It's just really disgusting. It's just a really messed up system, but how do you fix it? Like, what's the alternative? It goes deep.
I feel bad for kids like that, and it there's so many predators out there. People like Skip and that will take advantage of that, and with
Right.
Teresa, right.
Yeah, I mean, and there was something I read also in my research that Skip had a story. It wasn't just like Bigfoot and the Bigfoot community. He also came up with this he mentioned that there were like satanic sex cults in the area too at the time. That was one thing I stumbled across. Not anything big. It was mentioned like very briefly, but it did come up, and then I'm like, well, he was probably making that up. But look at the way the world is. Did we believe in satanic sex cults, a decade ago? Would we have thought, "Oh,
Right.
yeah," that all of our politicians are involved in things like that? Probably
Well, this
not,
is
but
during
they
the
are.
'80s too, when that is kind of a trend anyway.
It definitely was. You have, like,
I mean, this is like Dungeons& and Dragons and yeah,
Satanic
so that
Panic, stuff like
right.
that. But
Yeah,
you also have, like, the Boys Town, controversy and all these, pedophile rings that were happening, and, the first child abductions and kids on milk cartons and things like that. So, like, we know those things were going on.
right.
So, who know? I mean, maybe.
Yeah, and if he would have came down and reported it right away and been helpful in showing investigators where he was and had a more legitimate story, then I think this would be a toss-up, but
Mhm,
the fact that, he never reported it and he goes on the run right away,
mhm.
I would say that, that is a just a clear case of he had something to do with her murder.
I think that's the biggest red flag of this whole story. That's the biggest indicator that he has some guilt in this, because
That and saying that Bigfoot did it.
that
I mean, I'm
too, yeah.
sorry, but come on.
Right, of all the stories that you could
If
have
you
come
would have
up with,
said that she was kidnapped, I would've been like, "Oh, yeah, that happens.
or
That's why
that
you
sh
don't
yeah,
camp beside a river by yourself."
yes, or that she wandered into the woods and you yelled for her and she never
Yeah,
came back. That's even
right.
more plausible than Bigfoot took her. So, maybe he knew his audience. Maybe he was like, "Oh, I know these people. They're gonna believe this." I don't know.
Well, If you want to hear more about Bigfoot, again, make sure that you check out our new show that I'm doing with Kelli, The Disclosure Lounge. We are talking all about Bigfoot this week. You will hear Kelli's amazing story of survival when she was camping by herself.
Yes. Yes. I'm so lucky. Honestly, I have worked in true crime for like 7 years now, and I still do foolish things all the time. I just hope for the best. And it's all worked out for me so far. So,
I mean, that's a good philosophy in life. Hoping
yep.
for the best, right?
Yep.
I just don't trust anybody. That's
I don't
one.
really either, but but I don't. That's why I go by myself. See, I'd be more likely to get murdered with whoever I was there camping with, probably. So, yeah.
Funny story. So I was up on a mountain, and it's at the very peak, and I was with my wife, and some people were getting close to me, and I started to like get nervous, and she was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, are you afraid of heights?" I'm like, "I'm not afraid of heights. I just don't trust the person that's beside me to push me off."
Yeah. Seriously, it's happened. Like,
Yeah.
it's happened.
I'm good with being up high. I'm just not good with being up high next
Yeah.
to someone that I don't know.
Random acts of craziness, they
Yeah.
happen all the time. I mean, there's like a couple cases in the news in this last week. Random, totally random, minding your own business, get slashed in the throat. It just happens.
Yeah, and if you wanna hear more about those stories like that, I'm sure that you can hear them on True Crime Sleep Stories. That is Kelli Brink's show. She's also got some books out
Yeah.
on Amazon. I believe she's
Yes.
got 3
Yep.
volumes of them.
Yeah. True Crime Sleep Stories, volumes 1 through 3. So you can get them on Amazon, listen to my podcast wherever you find podcasts, and you can follow me on Instagram at Kelli Brink. It's Kelly with an I. Also, I have to mention, I'm going to be at CrimeCon 2026 in May in Las Vegas. It's at Caesar's Palace this year. It's going to be really fun. If you want to buy your tickets, you can get a discount if you use my code SLEEP at checkout. So I hope to see you there.
All right. So again, I want to add that you can also follow us on Disclosure Lounge on Instagram as well. If you want to follow me, make sure that you follow Santana True Crime on Instagram, and make sure that you like and subscribe to this show. That way you can get all the episodes. If you want to support me, you can buy my book, A Murder on Campus, A Professor, the Cop, in North Carolina's Most Notorious Cold Case. I wrote that with my brother, the true crime professor, Dr. Brian Santana. That is about the unsolved murder of Virginia Olsen on UNC Asheville's campus. So make sure that you check that out. Kelli, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for
And
having me again.
always a pleasure
love it.
working with you.
It's great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you and good night.
Bye-bye.